Yes,
Yeah.
and in the question, like, is not always asking, like, oh, the danger, or you training yourself to be a psychopath, and I say, like, well, if whatever you put in your character come back on you, you might not be fit for role playing. That might not be like, that might be too much of a dangerous like if you're gonna make the distinction between your character and yourself, right, and what you do in the game and what you might not be a right fit for this hobby, right? You kind of need to be able to make the distinction.
That's an argument that was made to me, and I was shocked because the guy who did it is a friend of mine that I role played with years ago in 5th edition. We did like over 50 sessions, and I made the case, or I never put it in its own video, but the role play is the ultimate safe space. It's a group of friends that you know playing in a world that doesn't exist, playing a character that doesn't exist, pretending to be a guy that's not real, doing whatever you want to do. So to explore different sides of yourself or somebody else, where all the consequences are made up in the first place. You get to have the experience, and after the game is done, you pull out and you can reflect on it, and you form memories on it. And the memories feel real. The events weren't, but the memories feel real. I think that's what the people remember. Oh yeah, I did this session and I saved the princess and slayed the dragon. That's what they remembered. They remembered the cool stuff they have done as if they were there. Like they are aware, it's not this, it's not real, but it feels real in the memory. Does that make sense? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'll probe Mike with this one, since you're like, is it correct? You are the psychologist. Is that the right title?
I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. Yeah.
Clinical psychology. Okay.
Yeah. I would say that when you role play, you are not training yourself to be evil any more than when you're playing a video game, first person shooter video game, you're training yourself to shoot people. There's just no evidence to suggest currently, I'm not saying there couldn't be evidence, but there's no evidence that I'm aware of to suggest that role playing, say someone who's super selfish or whatever, increases your innate selfishness yourself. And so I think it's a misnomer to say that you're training yourself one way or another.
Yeah,
I would even say like more so if I can add to that, like not only like I think you're like, I'm not a psychologist.
No, you're just a subject matter expert. That's what you are.
Like on evil, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the Resident Evil guy.
Yeah, the Resident Evil. It's
if you roleplay evil, not only I don't think that it's gonna make you become evil, but if you do it earnestly, with and you try to really portray like not in a cartoonish manner, right? Not like you don't do just cartoonish evil. You say like, what if I'm playing this guy that is like super driven, he got this goal and is willing to do anything to achieve it, right? And the goal can be like being rich, or the goal can be communism, whatever. Like like even if it's like a goal that would be good on paper, like and you go in that mindset, and you play this evil guy that is willing to do anything to achieve his goal. It allows you to understand evil better, and then deal with it and that's also part of part of the reason why you role play, like when you do like role play thing in psychology and stuff like that, right? They say like, I'll be you and you'll be your mother, and then we're gonna replay the situation where a conflict arises.
Doesn't quite work that way, Max, but okay.
That's a movie. That's a movie depiction.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
It's the idea, right?
I understand what you're going for, but yeah.
It's a cliche, right? I'm just like, it's a trope.
Yeah, it is a trope.
I'm sure they don't do that like.
No, it's role play as you're describing it in therapy. It works somewhat differently than that. So it's a tool like everything else in the tool chest, but it's.
I can give you an example since I've been in one of those. I've experienced role play being used in a therapy manner, and it was a group and they inside the clinic. So everybody that is in there is voluntarily joined. You're not forced to join for this specific thing for an hour. And the setup was this. So we are trying to teach conflict resolution, and we are using role play. So somebody plays an uncle, the other guy plays the nephew. The uncle wants to give the nephew a gift for the birthday, but he doesn't quite know what he likes because they don't talk that often, or the nephew avoids him when he tries to connect. And when the nephew gets the gift, he's insulted because the uncle has no clue what his hobbies are. And so you lean into like getting rash or lashing out and role-playing out how to not reach like, how do we resolve this conflict without it blowing up in both people's faces. And it's a fictional scenario, so you can go through the motions without getting personal with the other guy you're role-playing with, and literally learn how do we get to a reasonable conclusion.
I mean, I think this gets us a bit off topic, but I'll say that in therapy, role play is used as a way to practice skills. And so oftentimes that's, what people are doing with role play in therapy. But back to the issue of, evil, I think one of the
Can you learn being evil through?
Wait. Yeah, no, because when you say practice skill, it's a specific type of skill. Like there's social skill, there's interaction skill, right? So which is also like something that you could touch in like a role-playing game in a sense, right? Like by playing different character. Like you're not gonna practice like knitting, right? Which is a skill, That's role-play is not gonna help you with that. Like it's empathic skill that you develop in role-play.
No, I'm not saying that role play doesn't enhance skills. That the way we role play in just our games.
No, I mean in therapy, like the skill that you develop, like that you practice, they're all related to dealing with the other and understanding other people think.
Absolutely, they're very much related to social skills. That's correct. Yeah, that would be accurate.
You had a point there, Mike, that you wanted to lead into.
Well, I think that one of the things that for example, I'm currently playing in a game. It's a Shadowrun 3rd edition game. It's not 4D. It's definitely not, but it's in person.
You are absolved.
Thank you. and and we are playing fundamentally evil people. I mean, we are very selfish. We're incredibly immune to our own consequences in the sense of we don't really care who we hurt. And, I'm portraying this character in this space. And in doing so, I have to go very much against my own impulses to do it. But one of the guiding principles is I often think of like, do I have an evil goal and I'm using good means to get to it, or do I have a good goal and I'm using evil means to get to it, right? It's the other way or the other way around. The idea is that, I want to provide literacy to everybody, but I'm going to enslave the population to, learn to read or something like that, as a crappy example.
You're forced to go to school and,
Right. But the idea is that those that kind of way of looking at it, I don't want to say simplifies it, but in some respects it simplifies how to think about goal-oriented evil, in a role-playing game, but a motivation, if you will. But of course, getting back to what Max says, one of the things that is absolutely the case is that I am trying to find in this character things that I can portray because I'm portraying their frame of mind, not my own. My own would be very much against everything my character does. But, from their point of view, they justify it, they make sense of it, and it works for the purposes of this game.
It's very much a big appeal of Shadowrun or Cyberpunk style games of, hey, I'm already logged into this boring normie life in real life. I want to do something exciting in this other universe where the rules, you play fast and loose by the rules, and the oppressive megacorp overlords always hound you, and you're trying to eke out a living outside the system. With the outcasts and the weirdos and the mages and whoever megacorps don't like that doesn't benefit them. And that's exciting. It's cool to lean into that punk culture, so to say.
But there's also like they can also like be level to your character as well. Like you can be like very good with the people that are in your in-group, right? The people that are close to you, your associate and stuff like that, your friends. Maybe you're super generous with them, super fair, super even. Maybe you justify like all kind of like evil act that you do because like, oh, it's harming like corporation and people like that work for the corporation, and they're the out group, and they're, you know. But the guy that worked for the corporation as a security guard is also like just a guy getting a job, right? It's like, you know,
Yeah.
But you don't think about that. So evil is not as simple. It's not black and white, like oftentimes in those settings, right?
It can even be the guy who's the security guard was the one who was like sieved through this 12-step process to make sure whoever becomes the security guard follows company guidelines and is like almost like hard-nosed, pushes through whatever the company says, despite his moral feelings. You know, like I'm putting my own moral quandaries aside and do the job, whether or not I like it. You can have levels to that because, mega corporation really wants to, well, it's all about the bottom line. Well, you know, we're talking in the Shadowrun context, the cyberpunk context, where all corporations are evil is the presumption. So they will push for it through all layers of whoever is hired at the company for as far as they can get away with.
I mean, I think that's like, you know, fundamentally, I think Max is raising a good point. I think you're raising a good point, Z. I think the issue is that there's sort of degrees of the evil act, like whatever, you know, how antisocial act or whatever. But, you know, there's degrees to it, you know, outright, you know, killing a house full of people is one level of evil, you know, maybe roughing up someone for their money is another level of evil. You know, I'm just throwing out, I'm spitballing here. But the point being is that, you know, we can play in degrees as well, and we can play in the gray area of what is evil, what defines evil, what defines good. And that sort of philosophical exploration can actually be really interesting and as grounds for role play, and really interesting to sharpen your own understanding of the concepts.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's also like, go ahead, Elfin.
I think another, I don't know if I'm going off topic, but I think another benefit of role-playing an evil person, or at least morally gray person, is the opposite of what some would worry about. You know, they worry it's gonna bleed into you, you'll become evil. I'd say when you role-play that, it gives you something to look out for in yourself. And, you know, maybe hopefully you already know that stuff before you sit down at the role-playing table. But I think that's another benefit.
I mean, I think I want to lean into this. It's I've asked my buddy to like write down what his counter argument really is, because he lives in Europe. He's not going to be awake for this show, so he gave me a summary of RPG tables are not inherent safe spaces just by, and maybe it's going to take me a while, just by virtue of role-playing a character. Other people do not dissociate your actions and the character actions. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm disagreeing there. I'd say that it comes down to the player agency, not the character agency. If you were in the theater or movie set, you'll have a script and guidance on how to portray a character, the character's actions, the depth of exploration of an activity or theme, etc. None of that inherently exists at an RPG table. You as the player are responsible for, first, what kind of character you design, what actions you choose to describe it, in what depth, what brings it to light and what to leave veiled, right? Like not going into the rape scene, I assume, what do you describe and what do you leave implied, so to say. The third, when do you use first and first person, and the fourth, how do you interact when the table goes out of in character. So, and he says, just these things reveal your inner workings to people around the table.
I think that's I mean, I don't think that's true. And I think part of this is addressed in, the language of 4D when we talk about a high trust table.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
I think that when, like, I'm sitting with my friends in the in-person Shadowrun game, they know me, and they also know that I'm portraying this character, as we all are, and that character is a very different person than I am. And there's no association to my character traits or my personality traits or who I am based on the character that I portray. And I think that goes with, the high trust table, because we all know each other well enough to know that we're free to play these characters without it coloring any view we have of one another.
And
I think
Go
if
ahead.
your friend, sure, he's a great guy, whatever, but if that's what he thinks, then maybe he should not play GTA, or he should not watch action movies or things like that, because it might influence him. And maybe he doesn't do those things. I don't know.
I don't
But,
think so. Like
for
that's why it's so weird to me. It does not collide with reality of what I know about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I don't want to single him out, because I think people in the role-playing game, community, people who role-play, some people think that way. And I want to figure out of how can we debunk it, or, steel man it.
If somebody think this way, does that invite us to look at his character action if they would think that he would do in such situation?
Right. That's the implication. Like, it's weird to me. It's very weird. So I think, one of the things, it's clear that he imagines I am advocating for, just show up to your gaming table and use it as therapy. Use it as your Alcoholics Anonymous. Use it to explore your inner feelings about the topic, and basically abuse the table without letting them know that's what you're doing, which, to make it clear, that's not what I'm advocating for. And I think it's that would be a problem.
This is not exploring your darkness, your dark side,
No.
something like that. It's exploring
No.
the character.
Yeah, it's exploring the character, which can be dark, like exploring different type of there's darkness in the world, right? And
Yeah.
And GMs role play evil characters all the time.
Mhm.
But it's different
Oh, yeah.
when it's the player. Why is that?
Why would it be different? Is there any reason that GM gets to play evil guys, but the player character is not allowed to?
he did mention like the difference between third person and first person. Oftentimes when you're the GM, you do your role play in third person, right?
Yes.
While when you're the player, you're usually like role play in first person. Not everybody, but like most people, I think, or most people in our circle at least. So maybe that's a difference. Maybe like using third person give you enough distance for it to be different. I don't think it is, but
I really struggled to steel man the argument, because I think it's just fundamentally flawed with not only the activity we're doing, but how we think, how we hold self-identity, our own ethics and morals and values, versus how we're able to sort of portray a character that holds very different ethics, morals, and views and justifications for their actions. So I struggle, because I don't want to give it short shrift. I don't want to cut it off. But the same side of that is it's just not consistent with really what's going on or how people seem to work. And as Elf Hunter pointed out, it's one of those things where if this were true, then any video game that you identify with, any movie you start getting sucked into, would vastly alter who you are, and that just doesn't happen.
So role-playing a character does not alter who you are. That's let's go with that.
I mean,
I think
it can
well,
sharpen your thinking. It can sharpen thinking. It can sharpen your philosophical view on things, but
Right.
and you can certainly feel certain ways, but it doesn't fundamentally change your core of who you are. What's called core beliefs.
There's just like an objection I want to make, because like I don't think like likening role playing